The rain came down hard that October night. Lightning lit up the dark sky over the small town of Cedar Falls, Montana. Most people were safe inside their warm homes. But one small figure ran through the empty streets. Lily was only 12 years old, but she had learned to be tough. Her thin jacket was soaked through, and her sneakers made squishing sounds with every step. She had been running for 2 hours now, ever since she climbed out the window of the Peterson house. They were her fourth foster family in 3 years, and she couldn't take it anymore. The Petersons weren't mean like some of the others. They just didn't care. They fed her and gave her a bed, but that was it. When she tried to tell Mrs. Peterson about the older boy next door who kept following her home from school, the woman just waved her hand and said she was being dramatic. Lily spotted an old barn at the edge of town. The door was hanging loose on its hinges. She pushed it open and stepped inside, shivering. It smelled like hay and old wood. At least it was dry. She found a corner behind some broken farm equipment and curled up into a ball. She must have fallen asleep because the next thing she knew, morning light was coming through the cracks in the walls. Her stomach growled loudly. She hadn't eaten since lunch the day before. The rain had stopped, but everything was still wet and muddy outside. That's when she heard footsteps. Lily's heart started beating fast. She pressed herself deeper into the corner, trying to become invisible. The barn door creaked open wider. "Hello? Anyone in here?" The voice was deep but gentle. It belonged to a man, and that scared her most of all. In her experience, men were the ones who hurt you the most. A tall figure stepped into the barn. He wore a cowboy hat, old jeans, and boots that had seen better days. His face was weathered from years of working outside, and he had kind eyes that reminded her of her grandfather, the only person who had ever truly loved her before he died. The man's name was Tom Jackson. He had been working on ranches his whole life and was now 45 years old. He had come to check on the old barn because he thought he saw smoke yesterday during the storm. The building belonged to his boss, and Tom wanted to make sure lightning hadn't started a fire. "I'm not going to hurt you," Tom said softly when he spotted Lily hiding behind the equipment. "I just want to make sure you're okay." Lily didn't move. She had heard those words before from adults who later broke their promises. Tom slowly took off his heavy work jacket. The morning was getting warmer, but he could see the girl was still shivering. He placed the jacket on a hay bale between them and took several steps back. "You must be cold," he said. "And hungry too, I bet." Lily's stomach chose that moment to growl again, loud enough for Tom to hear. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Her body was betraying her. Tom reached into his pocket and pulled out a granola bar. He placed it next to the jacket and backed away again. "I always carry these when I'm working, in case I get hungry between meals." The girl stared at the food but didn't move toward it. "My name's Tom," he said, sitting down on an overturned bucket to make himself less threatening. "I work at the ranch next door. Been taking care of horses and cattle for more years than I can count." He paused, studying her face. She was so young, and there was something in her eyes that he recognized. It was the same look he'd seen in mirrors when he was her age, the look of someone who expected the worst from every adult they met. "I'm guessing you ran away from somewhere," Tom continued. "And I'm guessing you had good reasons for it." Lily's eyes widened slightly. Most adults would have already called the police or started lecturing her about running away being dangerous. Tom stood up slowly. "I've got to get back to work, but I'll check on you later if that's okay. There's a storm coming tonight, bigger than the one yesterday. This old barn isn't the safest place to be." He walked toward the door, then stopped and turned back. "I know you don't have any reason to trust me," he said, "but I want you to know something. When I was about your age, I ran away too. Spent 3 days hiding in a place just like this. I was scared and hungry and didn't know who to trust." Lily found herself listening despite trying not to care. "A man found me, just like I found you," Tom continued. "But instead of helping, he made everything worse. I promised myself that if I ever found a kid in trouble, I'd do better than he did." After Tom left, Lily stared at the jacket and granola bar for a long time. Finally, hunger won over caution. She grabbed the food and ate it quickly, then wrapped the big jacket around her shoulders. It smelled like horses and hay and something else she couldn't name, something that felt safe. Hours passed. Lily heard Tom working outside, talking to animals in that same gentle voice. She peeked through a crack in the wall and watched him brush down a brown horse. His movements were patient and careful. The horse seemed to trust him completely. As the sun started to set, Tom returned to the barn. This time he brought a thermos of hot soup and a thick blanket. "The weather radio says we're in for a bad night," he said, placing the items near where she was hiding. "Tornado watch until morning." Lily had been through tornadoes before. They were terrifying even when you were safe inside a real house. Tom sat down on his bucket again. "There's a small cabin where I live, about a quarter mile from here. It's got thick walls and a storm cellar. You'd be welcome to wait out the weather there." "Why?" The word came out before Lily could stop it. It was the first thing she had said all day. Tom was quiet for a moment. "Because everyone deserves to be safe," he said finally. "Especially kids. Are you going to call someone? The police or social services?" "Not unless you want me to." Lily studied his face, looking for signs that he was lying. She had gotten good at reading adults over the years. But Tom's expression was open and honest. Thunder rumbled in the distance, closer than before. "Are you going to hurt me like the others?" The words came out as a whisper, but they hit Tom like a physical blow. He had faced down angry bulls and dangerous storms without flinching, but this small girl's question brought him to his knees. Literally, he dropped down so they were at eye level, and she could see tears forming in his weathered eyes. "No, little one," he said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise you, I will never hurt you, not ever." Something in his voice, in the way he had fallen to his knees at her question, made Lily believe him. For the first time in years, she felt like maybe, just maybe, she had found someone who meant what they said. The storm was coming, but for the first time in a long time, Lily wasn't facing it alone. Lily didn't go to Tom's cabin that first night, even though the storm was terrible. She stayed in the barn, wrapped in his blanket and jacket, listening to the wind howl outside. But she felt safer knowing he was nearby, and that he hadn't tried to force her to do anything. The next morning, Tom found a plate of warm breakfast and a cup of hot chocolate waiting on the hay bale where he had left the other things. He didn't see Lily, but he knew she was watching him from her hiding spot. "Good morning," he called out softly. "Hope you slept okay despite the storm." He didn't wait for an answer. Instead, he went about his work, talking to her like she was an old friend. "Got to check on the horses today," he said while replacing the food with fresh items. "One of the Murrays is expecting a baby soon. She's getting nervous, like first-time mothers do." Over the next few days, this became their routine. Tom would bring food and supplies, tell Lily about his day, and then leave her alone. He never pushed her to come out or tried to make her talk. On the fourth day, Lily surprised herself by speaking up. "What's the horse's name?" she asked from behind the equipment. Tom smiled but didn't turn around. He had learned that direct eye contact still scared her. "Belle," he said. "She's a beautiful chestnut color, just like autumn leaves." "Want to see her?" There was a long pause. "I can't. Someone might see me." "The ranch is pretty isolated," Tom said. "And my boss is away for the week. It's just me and the animals right now." Another pause. "What if I get scared?" "Then you can run back here anytime you want. I won't try to stop you." That afternoon, Lily peeked her head out of the barn door for the first time. Tom was in the pasture, brushing Belle's coat. The horse was huge, but she seemed calm and gentle. Tom was talking to her in that same soft voice he used with Lily. "She's beautiful," Lily whispered. Tom heard her, but pretended he didn't. He kept brushing Belle and talking about how nervous the horse was about becoming a mother. "Sometimes scared creatures just need someone to be patient with them," he said, clearly, meaning more than just the horse. They need to know they're safe before they can trust. The next day, Lily crept a little closer. She sat on a fence post about 20 feet away and watched Tom work. He acted like this was perfectly normal, but inside his heart was singing. Progress was being made. "Belle seems less nervous today," Lily observed. "She is," Tom agreed. Having someone nearby who cares makes all the difference. By the end of the week, Lily was helping Tom with small tasks. She would fill water buckets and carry hay, always staying close to an escape route. Tom never made sudden movements or raised his voice, even when one of the young horses got spooked and knocked over a bucket. "You're good with them," Lily said one afternoon, watching Tom calm a nervous colt. "Animals can sense when you mean them no harm," Tom replied. "People aren't much different, really." That evening, Tom made his usual food delivery to the barn. But this time Lily was sitting openly on a hay bale, waiting for him. "Hi," she said quietly. "Hi yourself," Tom replied with a gentle smile. "Mind if I sit down?" She nodded, and he settled onto another hay bale, careful to keep some distance between them. "Tom?" she said after they had eaten in comfortable silence. "Yeah? Why are you being so nice to me?" "Most grown-ups want something." Tom was quiet for a long moment, choosing his words carefully. "When I was about your age, I lived with my father. He wasn't a good man. He drank too much and got angry about everything. I used to hide in places like this barn, wishing someone would find me and help me." Lily looked up at him with wide eyes. "What happened?" "Eventually, I got old enough to leave on my own. But I spent a lot of years wishing things had been different. Wishing someone had cared enough to help. Is that why you're helping me?" Tom nodded. "Partly. But also because you remind me that there's still good in the world. You've been through terrible things, but you're still brave enough to try trusting someone new. That takes more courage than most people have." Lily felt tears starting to form in her eyes. Nobody had ever called her brave before. "The Petersons probably reported me missing by now," she said. "Probably," Tom agreed. "Are you worried about going back?" Lily shivered despite the warm jacket. "Mrs. Peterson doesn't really want me there. She just gets money from the state for keeping me. And Mr. Peterson—" She trailed off, not wanting to finish the sentence. Tom's jaw tightened, but he kept his voice calm. "Did he hurt you?" "Not exactly, but the way he looks at me sometimes makes me feel sick. And he stands too close when Mrs. Peterson isn't around." Tom felt anger rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry wouldn't help Lily right now. "You don't have to go back there if you don't want to," he said. "There are other options." "Like what?" "Well, I've been thinking. I have a small cabin here on the ranch. It's got 2 bedrooms and I only use one. You could stay there while we figure out what's best for you." Lily's heart started beating faster. "You mean like live with you?" "I mean having a safe place to sleep while we work with social services to find you a better situation. I'm not trying to replace your family or anything like that. I just want to make sure you're safe." "What if they say no? What if they make me go back to the Petersons?" "Then we'll fight it," Tom said firmly. "I've got some money saved up, and I know a good lawyer in town. We'll make sure your voice gets heard." That night, for the first time in a week, Lily didn't sleep in the barn. Tom's cabin was small, but clean and warm. He gave her the bigger bedroom and showed her how to lock the door from the inside. "If you get scared or change your mind, you can leave any time," he reminded her. "The barn is always there if you need it." But Lily didn't want to leave. For the first time in years, she felt like she might have found a place where she belonged. Before she went to sleep, she knocked softly on Tom's bedroom door. "Thank you," she said when he opened it. "For what?" "For not giving up on me? For letting me take my time to trust you?" Tom smiled. "Thank you for being brave enough to try." As Lily settled into the unfamiliar bed, she listened to the sounds of the ranch at night. Horses moving quietly in their stalls, the wind through the trees and somewhere nearby, the sound of someone who cared about her safety, keeping watch. For the first time in 3 years, she fell asleep without being afraid. October turned into November, and the leaves on the trees around the ranch changed from green to brilliant yellows and reds. Lily had been living in Tom's cabin for 3 weeks now, and slowly she was starting to feel like a normal kid again. Every morning she would wake up to the smell of coffee and pancakes. Tom was an early riser, and he always had breakfast ready before heading out to work. At first, Lily ate quickly and then disappeared into her room or back to the barn. But gradually she started staying at the kitchen table longer, listening to Tom talk about his plans for the day. "Belle's getting close to having her baby," Tom said one morning, looking out the window toward the pasture. "Could be any day now, might even be today," Lily perked up. She had become fascinated with Belle over the past few weeks. The horse was gentle and seemed to understand that Lily needed patience, just like Tom did. "Can I help when it happens?" Lily asked. Tom smiled. "I'd like that. Belle seems calmer when you're around." After breakfast, Lily began her new routine of helping around the ranch. It wasn't like chores at the foster homes, where she was made to feel like she was paying for her keep. Here, Tom made it clear that her help was appreciated but not required. She started small, filling water buckets and spreading fresh hay in the stalls. But as her confidence grew, she took on bigger tasks. She learned how to brush the horses properly, how to clean their hooves, and even how to lead them from the barn to the pasture. The work was peaceful in a way that nothing in her life had been before. The animals didn't judge her or demand explanations for her past. They simply accepted her as she was, responding to her gentle touch and quiet voice. "You have a gift with them," Tom observed one afternoon, watching Lily calm a skittish young horse that had been afraid of most people. They're easier than people," Lily replied. "They don't lie or pretend to care when they don't." Tom understood what she meant. In the evenings, when their work was done, Lily would sometimes tell him stories about her life before. The words came slowly at first, then in bigger pieces as she learned to trust him completely. She told him about her real parents, who died in a car accident when she was 9. She had loved them deeply, and their loss had left a hole in her heart that no one seemed able to fill. "The first foster family seemed nice," she said one night as they sat on the porch, watching the stars. "The Johnsons. They had 2 kids of their own, and I thought maybe I could fit in. But after a few months, they said I was too much work, too sad all the time." Tom felt anger building inside him again, but he kept his voice gentle. "Being sad after losing your parents isn't too much work. It's normal." "The second family was worse," Lily continued. "Mr. Williams had a bad temper. He never hit me, but he would yell and throw things when he got mad. Mrs. Williams was scared of him too, but she never stood up to him. I was there for 8 months before I finally told my caseworker what was happening." "Good for you for speaking up," Tom said. "That took courage." "The third family, the Hendersons, they were just cold. They fed me and bought me clothes, but they treated me like I was a houseguest who had overstayed their welcome. They had rules for everything. I couldn't use the living room except on weekends. I had to ask permission to get a drink of water. When I got sick with the flu, Mrs. Henderson acted like I was doing it on purpose to inconvenience her." Tom shook his head. "How did you end up with the Petersons?" Lily's face darkened. "My caseworker said they were my last chance. That if it didn't work out with them, I'd have to go to a group home." She made it sound like the group home was the worst thing that could happen to me. What was wrong with the Petersons? Like I said before, Mrs. Peterson just wanted the money. She barely spoke to me except to give me chores or tell me rules. And Mr. Peterson, she shivered, even though the evening was warm. "You don't have to talk about it if you don't want to," Tom said gently. "He never touched me," Lily said quickly. "But he would find excuses to come into my room, to check on me when Mrs. Peterson wasn't home. He would stand too close when he talked to me, and his eyes would look at me in a way that made my skin crawl. When I tried to tell Mrs. Peterson, she said I was being dramatic and ungrateful." Tom's hands clenched into fists, but he kept his voice calm. "I'm sorry that happened to you. And I'm glad you trusted your instincts and got out of there. Are you really going to help me not go back?" Lily asked, looking up at him with hopeful but scared eyes. "I promise," Tom said firmly. "We'll figure this out together." The next morning brought excitement to the ranch. Belle had gone into labor during the night, and by the time Tom and Lily reached the barn, she was in the final stages of giving birth. "Is she okay?" Lily asked, worried by the sounds Belle was making. "She's doing great," Tom assured her. "This is normal. She's just working hard." They stayed with Belle through the whole process, Tom providing encouragement and assistance when needed, while Lily held the horse's head and spoke to her in soothing tones. When the foal finally arrived, a beautiful black filly with white markings, Lily couldn't stop smiling. "She's perfect," Lily breathed, watching the baby horse try to stand on wobbly legs. "She is," Tom agreed. "What should we call her?" Lily thought for a moment. "Hope," she said. "Her name should be Hope?" Tom smiled. "That's perfect." As they watched Hope take her first steps, Lily felt something shift inside her chest. For so long, she had been focused on just surviving from one day to the next. But watching this new life come into the world, seeing the trust in Belle's eyes, and feeling Tom's steady presence beside her, she realized something important. Maybe survival wasn't enough anymore. Maybe it was time to start hoping for something better. That evening, Tom made a phone call while Lily was taking a shower. When she came out, he was sitting at the kitchen table with some papers spread out in front of him. "What's all that?" she asked. "Information about becoming a foster parent," Tom said. "I called a lawyer friend of mine today. He says there's a process we can go through to make your staying here official." Lily's heart started beating faster. "You want to be my foster parent? I want you to have choices," Tom said carefully. "If you want to stay here, I want to make that possible. If you'd rather try a different family, I'll help you find one that will treat you right. But either way, you're not going back to a place where you don't feel safe." Lily sat down across from them, looking at the papers. They were full of legal language she didn't understand, but the meaning was clear. Tom was willing to fight for her. "What would it mean?" she asked. "If you became my foster parent, it would mean you'd have a permanent place here as long as you want it. You'd go to school in town, and we'd figure out how to help you heal from everything you've been through. It would mean having someone who's legally responsible for making sure you're safe and cared for." "And what would it mean for you?" Tom was quiet for a moment. "It would mean having the chance to be the kind of adult I wished I'd had when I was your age. It would mean having someone to share this place with, someone to teach about horses and ranching and life." Lily looked around. The small cabin that had become home. She thought about Belle and Hope, about the peaceful mornings and the sense of safety she felt here. "I want to stay," she said quietly, "if you'll have me." Tom smiled, and Lily could see tears in his eyes. "I can't think of anything I'd like more." Outside, the wind was picking up, bringing the first hint of winter. But inside the cabin, too. People who had found each other were making plans for a future that neither of them had dared to dream of before. The call came on a Tuesday morning in early December. Tom was fixing a broken fence post when his phone rang, and Lily was in the barn with Hope, who was growing stronger every day. "Tom Jackson?" The voice on the other end was official and serious. "Yes, that's me. This is Detective Rodriguez with the Cedar Falls Police Department. We're investigating a missing person case. A 12-year-old girl named Lily Chun disappeared from her foster home about 6 weeks ago. We have reason to believe she might be in your area." Tom's stomach dropped, but he kept his voice steady. "What makes you think that?" A few people in town have reported seeing a young girl working around your ranch. We just want to ask you a few questions." Tom looked toward the barn where Lily was playing with Hope, completely unaware that their peaceful world was about to be turned upside down. "I'll be here," Tom said. "When do you want to come by?" "This afternoon, if that works for you, around 2 o'clock. After Tom hung up, he sat on the fence rail for a long moment, trying to figure out how to tell Lily. He had known this day would come eventually, but he had hoped to have more time to get the legal process started. When he walked into the barn, Lily took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. "What happened?" she asked, immediately on alert. Tom sat down on a hay bale and gestured for her to sit beside him. "The police called. They're coming here this afternoon to ask about you?" The color drained from Lily's face. "Are they going to take me away?" "I don't know," Tom said honestly. "But I want you to know that whatever happens, I'm going to fight for you. The lawyer I told you about, his name is Frank Morrison, and he's already started working on our case." Lily stood up quickly, her old instincts kicking in. "I should run. I should leave before they get here." "Hey," Tom said gently, standing up too. Running won't solve this. If you disappear again, it'll just make things harder. We need to face this together. But what if they make me go back to the Petersons? What if they don't believe me about Mr. Peterson? Tom put his hands on her shoulders, looking directly into her eyes. I believe you. And I promise you, no matter what happens today, you are not going back to a place where you don't feel safe. At exactly 2 o'clock, a police car pulled up the gravel driveway. Detective Rodriguez was a middle-aged woman with kind eyes but a serious demeanor. With her was a man in a suit who introduced himself as David Kim from Child Protective Services. Lily stayed close to Tom as they approached the house. She was trying to be brave, but Tom could feel her trembling. Miss Chun, Detective Rodriguez said gently, we've been looking for you. A lot of people have been worried. Not the right people, Lily muttered under her breath. Tom squeezed her hand. Detective Mr. Kim, would you like to come inside? We can talk more comfortably there. The conversation that followed was tense but civil. Detective Rodriguez explained that the Petersons had reported Lily missing the morning after she ran away. There had been search parties, alerts sent to surrounding counties, and her picture had been circulated to local businesses. Why didn't you contact authorities when you found her? Mr. Kim asked Tom. Because she was terrified, Tom replied honestly. She had been hurt by the system that was supposed to protect her. I wanted to make sure she felt safe before involving anyone else. That's not how this works, Mr. Kim said sternly. There are protocols for situations like this. Your protocols failed her, Tom said, his voice getting harder. How many foster homes has she been through? How many times has she tried to tell adults that she didn't feel safe? Detective Rodriguez held up a hand. Let's focus on what's best for Lily now. Lily, can you tell us why you ran away from the Petersons? Lily looked at Tom, who nodded encouragingly. Taking a deep breath, she told them everything. About Mrs. Peterson's indifference, about Mr. Peterson's inappropriate behavior, about feeling like she was just a paycheck to them. Mr. Kim took notes as she spoke, his expression becoming more serious as the story went on. These are serious allegations, he said when she finished. Why didn't you report this to your caseworker? I tried, Lily said, frustration clear in her voice. Mrs. Patterson said I was being dramatic. She said the Petersons were good people and I should be grateful. Detective Rodriguez and Mr. Kim exchanged a look. We'll need to investigate these claims, Detective Rodriguez said. In the meantime, Lily, you'll need to come with us. We have a temporary placement lined up? No, Lily said, jumping up from her chair. I won't go to another stranger's house. I want to stay here with Tom. I understand this is scary, Mr. Kim said. But Mr. Jackson isn't an approved foster parent. There are background checks, training requirements, home inspections, ... Then let's start that process, Tom said firmly. I've already contacted a lawyer. I want to become Lily's official foster parent. Mr. Kim shook his head. That process takes months. Lily needs placement now. She has placement, Tom said. She's safe here. She's been thriving here. Look at her. It was true. In the 6 weeks since Lily had been at the ranch, she had gained weight, her color was better, and the haunted look in her eyes had started to fade. Please, Lily said, tears streaming down her face. Don't make me leave. Tom is the first person who's ever made me feel safe. I'll run away again if you take me from here. Detective Rodriguez looked at the girl's tear-stained face, then at Tom's determined expression. She had been working with children for 15 years, and she had learned to recognize when a kid was truly happy versus when they were just surviving. What if we arranged for emergency temporary custody? She suggested to Mr. Kim. With increased supervision and monitoring while the approval process moves forward? Mr. Kim frowned. That's highly irregular. So is a 12-year-old successfully hiding for 6 weeks, Detective Rodriguez pointed out. This girl has been through enough trauma. If she's found a place where she feels safe, maybe we should try to preserve that while we work through the legal issues. Tom felt a surge of hope. I'll agree to any supervision you want. Home visits, background checks, whatever it takes. Mr. Kim was quiet for a long moment, studying Lily's face. Finally, he sighed. I'll need to make some phone calls. And there will be conditions, strict conditions. Whatever it takes, Tom said. The next hour was filled with phone calls and paperwork. Finally, Mr. Kim hung up his phone and turned to them. We can arrange temporary emergency custody for 30 days, he said. But there will be weekly check-ins, and if there are any problems at all, Lily will be moved immediately. Lily threw her arms around Tom, crying with relief. Thank you, Tom said to both officials. We won't let you down. As the police car disappeared down the driveway, Tom and Lily sat on the porch steps, both emotionally exhausted. 30 days, Lily said quietly. That's not very long. It's long enough to prove that this is where you belong, Tom said. And I'm going to spend every one of those days making sure the state knows how much we both want this to work. That evening, Tom made another phone call to his lawyer friend, Frank Morrison. 30 days isn't much time, Frank said. But it's something. I'll expedite the paperwork and call in some favors. We can do this, Tom, but it's going to be a fight. Then let's fight, Tom said, looking at Lily, who was reading a book by the fireplace. For the first time in her life, she looked like a normal kid without a care in the world. He wasn't going to let anyone take that away from her. The first 2 weeks of the emergency custody period went smoothly. Mr. Kim came by twice for his check-ins, and each time he seemed a little more convinced that Lily was thriving at the ranch. She had started attending the local school, and her teachers reported that she was bright, well-behaved, and making friends. Tom was moving through the foster parent approval process as quickly as possible. He attended training sessions in town, submitted to background checks, and had his home inspected. Frank Morrison was pushing hard to expedite everything, but bureaucracy moved slowly. Then, on a cold January morning, everything fell apart. Tom was in town picking up feed supplies when his phone rang. It was Lily, and she was crying so hard he could barely understand her. Tom, you have to come home, she sobbed. They're here. Mrs. Patterson is here, and she's saying I have to go with her right now. Tom's blood ran cold. Mrs. Patterson was Lily's original caseworker, the one who hadn't believed her about the Petersons. Stay calm, Tom said, already running toward his truck. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Don't go anywhere with her until I get there. But when Tom pulled into the driveway, Lily was already sitting in the back of Mrs. Patterson's car, her face pressed against the window. She looked terrified. Tom jumped out of his truck and ran to the car. What's going on here? Mrs. Patterson was a thin woman in her 50s with sharp features and an impatient expression. Mr. Jackson, I'm removing Lily from your care effective immediately. On what grounds? Tom demanded. We have emergency custody approval. That approval was based on temporary circumstances while we investigated her claims about the Petersons, Mrs. Patterson said coldly. Our investigation found no evidence of inappropriate behavior. The Petersons are willing to take her back. Tom felt like he'd been punched in the stomach. No evidence? Did you even interview Lily properly? I spoke. With her? Yes. And I spoke with the Petersons, who were very concerned about the allegations. They're hurt that Lily would make up such stories, but they're willing to forgive her and take her back. Through the car window, Lily was mouthing, "Help me," over and over again. You can't do this, Tom said desperately. She doesn't want to go. Back there, look at her. She's terrified. Children often resist structure and rules, Mrs. Patterson said dismissively. Lily has been allowed to run wild here for too long. She needs proper supervision and guidance. She needs people who care about her safety, Tom shot back. The Petersons care about her. They've opened their home to her again, despite her behavior. That's more than most people would do. Tom tried a different approach. What about my application? To become her foster parent? I'm going through all the proper channels. Mrs. Patterson's expression softened slightly, but her voice remained firm. Your application is still being processed, Mr. Jackson, but even if it's approved, there's no guarantee that Lily would be placed with you. She has a current placement. That's been deemed suitable. Suitable? Tom couldn't believe what he was hearing. She ran away from there because she didn't feel safe. She ran away because she's a troubled child who needs stability and consequences for her actions, Mrs. Patterson said. Running away and hiding out here hasn't taught her anything except that she can avoid responsibility. Tom looked at Lily again. Her face was pale, and she looked like she might throw up. This was exactly what she had been afraid of, that no one would believe her, that she would be forced back into a situation that scared her. Please, Tom said, his voice breaking. Just give me more time. Let me finish the approval process. Don't send her back to a place where she doesn't feel safe. The decision has been made, Mrs. Patterson said, getting into the driver's seat. Lily will be returned to the Petersons today. As the car started to pull away, Tom ran alongside it, trying to get Lily's attention. I won't give up, he called to her. I promise you I won't give up. But the car disappeared down the road, taking Lily with it. Tom stood in his empty driveway, feeling more helpless than he had in years. He immediately called Frank Morrison. They can't just ignore our emergency custody agreement, Frank said, when Tom explained what had happened. There are procedures that have to be followed. Tell that to Mrs. Patterson, Tom said bitterly. She acted like I was some random stranger who had kidnapped Lily. I'm going to make some calls, Frank said. This isn't over, Tom. We're going to fight this. But fighting took time, and time was something Tom worried they didn't have. Meanwhile, Lily was back in the Peterson house, feeling like her worst nightmare had come true. Mrs. Peterson had greeted her with cold politeness, while Mr. Peterson had smiled in a way that made her skin crawl. I hope you learned your lesson about running away, Mrs. Peterson said as she showed Lily back to her old room. Causing all that trouble, making up stories about us. We could have pressed charges, you know. I didn't make anything up, Lily sighed quietly. Don't start with that again, Mrs. Peterson snapped. You're lucky we're willing to take you back after the embarrassment you caused us. That night, Lily lay in her bed staring at the ceiling. Everything good that had happened over the past few months felt like a dream now. The safety she had felt with Tom, the peace of working with the horses, the hope that she might finally have found a real home, it all seemed impossible now. Around midnight, she heard footsteps in the hallway outside her room. They stopped at her door, and she heard the doorknob turn slowly. Mr. Peterson stuck his head into the room. Just checking to make sure you're settled in, he said softly. We wouldn't want you running away again. Lily pulled her blanket up to her chin and pretended to be asleep, but she could feel him watching her for a long moment before he finally closed the door. She didn't sleep at all that night. The next few days were a blur of misery. Lily barely spoke, barely ate, and spent most of her time staring out the window toward the direction of Tom's ranch. She felt like part of her soul had been ripped away. Mrs. Peterson complained constantly about Lily's attitude, while Mr. Peterson continued his pattern of finding excuses to be alone with her or to come into her room. At school, Lily's teachers noticed the dramatic change in her behavior. The confident, happy girl who had been making friends and participating in class had disappeared, replaced by a quiet, withdrawn child who jumped at sudden noises. On Friday, a week after she had been taken from Tom's ranch, Lily's math teacher, Mrs. Chun, kept her after class. Lily, I'm worried about you, she said gently. You seem very sad lately. Is everything okay at home? For a moment, Lily considered telling her everything. But then she remembered what had happened the last time she tried to tell an adult about her situation. Mrs. Patterson hadn't believed her. Why would anyone else? I'm fine, Lily said quietly. Just tired. But Mrs. Chun had been teaching for 20 years, and she knew the signs of a child in distress. That afternoon, she made a phone call to the school counselor. Meanwhile, Tom was fighting his own battle. Frank Morrison had filed papers challenging Lily's removal, but the legal system moved slowly. Every day that passed felt like a failure. To Tom, we need to be patient, Frank kept telling him. These things take time, but Tom knew that Lily didn't have time. Every day she spent back in that house was another day of damage being done to her spirit. On Sunday night, Tom's phone rang. It was a number he didn't recognize. Hello? Tom? The voice was barely a whisper, but he knew immediately who it was. Lily, where are you? How are you calling me? I'm at school, she whispered. I stayed late and hid until everyone left. Tom, I can't do this anymore. He came into my room again last night, and this time he sat on my bed. I'm so scared. Tom felt rage and heartbreak warring in his chest. Listen to me very carefully, he said. I'm going to get you out of there. Frank and I are working on it, but it might take a little more time. I don't have more time, Lily said, starting to cry. I can't go back there tonight. I can't. Then don't, Tom said firmly. Do you remember where the old barn is? The one where I first found you? Yes. Go there. I'll meet you there in an hour. We'll figure this out together. But what if they catch us? What if Mrs. Patterson— Let me worry about Mrs. Patterson, Tom said. Right now, I just need you to be safe. Can you get to the barn without anyone seeing you? I think so. Then I'll see you in an hour. And Lily, you were right to call me. You were right to trust your instincts. I should never have let them take. As Tom drove through the dark toward the old barn, he made a decision. He was done playing by rules that didn't protect the people who needed protection most. It was time to fight for Lily the way someone should have fought for him when he was her age. Tom found Lily huddled in the same corner of the old barn where he had discovered her months earlier. She looked smaller somehow, as if the week away from the ranch had shrunk her back into the scared, broken child she had been before. I'm sorry, she said as soon as she saw him. I know I messed everything up by calling you. Tom sat down beside her and pulled her into a gentle hug. You didn't mess anything up? You did exactly what you should have done. You asked for help when you needed it. But now Mrs. Patterson will be even more mad at me. And the Petersons will say I'm lying again. Let me worry about Mrs. Patterson and the Petersons, Tom said firmly. Right now, we need to focus on keeping you safe. He had brought blankets, food, and a thermos of hot chocolate. As Lily warmed up and ate, Tom called Frank Morrison. This changes everything, Frank said when Tom explained the situation. If Lily is willing to make a formal statement about what's been happening, we can demand an immediate investigation. She's scared, Tom said. She tried to tell people before, and no one believed her. This time will be different. I'll make sure of it. The next morning, Frank arrived at the barn with Detective Rodriguez and a social worker named Ms. Garcia. Miss Garcia was younger than Mrs. Patterson, with a kind face and a gentle manner that immediately put Lily at ease. Lily, I want you to know that we're here to listen to you, Miss Garcia said, and we're going to take everything you say seriously. With Tom holding her hand for support, Lily told her story again. This time, she included details she had been too scared or embarrassed to share before. She talked about Mr. Peterson coming into her room at night, about the way he would stand too close to her, about the inappropriate comments he would make. When his wife wasn't around, Detective Rodriguez took careful notes, asking gentle but thorough questions. When Lily finished, the detective's expression was grim. These are serious allegations, she said. We're going to investigate them thoroughly. In the meantime, you are not going back to the Peterson house. Lily sagged with relief. Where will she go? Tom asked. Miss Garcia looked at her paperwork. We have a temporary placement available at a group home in town. No, Lily said quickly. Please, I want to stay with Tom. The emergency custody order was revoked, Miss Garcia said gently. Mr. Jackson isn't approved yet, Frank Morrison spoke up. What if we could expedite the approval process? I've been pushing hard and we're closer than you might think. Over the next several days, a flurry of activity surrounded Lily's case. Detective Rodriguez interviewed the Petersons, and their stories didn't match up with each other or with what Lily had reported. Mr. Peterson became defensive and angry when questioned, which only made him look more suspicious. Other children who had been placed with the Petersons in the past were contacted, and 2 of them came forward with similar stories about Mr. Peterson's inappropriate behavior. Meanwhile, Tom was racing through the final steps of his foster parent approval. He completed his training sessions, passed his background checks, and had his home inspected again. Frank Morrison called in favors and pushed paperwork through faster than anyone thought possible. Lily spent those days in the group home, counting hours until she could see Tom again. He visited every day, bringing updates on the investigation and his approval process. "The kids who came forward about Mr. Peterson are brave," Lily said during one visit. "But I feel bad that they had to go through what I did." "You should feel proud," Tom said. "By speaking up, you protected other kids who might have been placed with them in the future. That takes real courage." On Thursday afternoon, Frank Morrison called Tom with news. "The state has approved your application," he said. "You're officially qualified to be a foster parent. And given the circumstances of Lily's case, they're willing to place her with you immediately." Tom felt like his heart might burst with relief. And joy. When he arrived at the group home to give Lily the news, she was sitting by the window, looking sad and lost. "Pack your things," Tom said with a huge grin. "We're going home." Lily's face lit up like the sun coming out from behind clouds. "Really? They approved you?" "Really, you're coming home with me right now, and this time it's official." The drive back to the ranch was filled with Lily's chatter about everything she had missed. How were the horses? Had Hope grown? Were there any new animals? Had Belle seemed sad without her? When they pulled into the driveway, Lily jumped out of the truck and ran straight to the barn. Hope, who was now several months old, whinnied with excitement when she saw Lily and trotted over to nuzzle her. "I missed you too," Lily whispered to the young horse, wrapping her arms around Hope's neck. That evening, as they sat down to dinner in the familiar kitchen, Lily looked across the table at Tom. "What happens now?" she asked. "Now we figure out how to be a family," Tom said. "We take things one day at a time, and we build something good together." "What about the Petersons? Will they get in trouble?" Tom's expression grew serious. "The investigation is ongoing. Detective Rodriguez thinks there's enough evidence to press charges against Mr. Peterson, and they've been removed from the approved foster parent list, so no other children will be placed with them." Lily nodded, looking satisfied with that answer. "What about Mrs. Patterson? She didn't believe me." "She's been reassigned to a different department," Tom said. "Miss Garcia is your new caseworker, and she's going to check in with us regularly to make sure everything is going well." Over the following weeks, life at the ranch settled into a new rhythm. Lily returned to school, where her teachers were amazed by her transformation back into the confident, happy child they had known before. She threw herself into her work with the horses, learning advanced riding techniques and helping Tom train some of the younger animals. She had a natural gift for it, and Tom began to think she might have a real future in the horse business if she wanted it. The legal proceedings against Mr. Peterson moved forward slowly but steadily. Lily had to give testimony, which was scary, but Tom and Ms. Garcia supported her through the process. "You're helping to make sure this never happens to another child," Ms. Garcia reminded her. "That's an incredible thing you're doing." One evening in early spring, about 3 months after Lily had officially come to live with Tom, they were working in the barn when she asked him a question that had been on her mind. "Tom, do you think you'll ever want to adopt me? Like, make it permanent?" Tom stopped brushing the horse he was working on and looked at her seriously. "Lily, I've been hoping you'd want that. But I wanted to make sure you felt settled and secure before we talked about it." "Adoption is a big step, I know," Lily said. "But this feels like home. You feel like the father I always wished I could have." Tom felt tears forming in his eyes. "There's nothing I'd like more than to adopt you. If you're sure that's what you want." "I'm sure," Lily said firmly. "I want to be your daughter for real." That night, Tom called Frank Morrison to start the adoption process. It would take time, but they had plenty of that now. As Lily lay in her bed that night, she looked out her window toward the pasture where Hope was growing strong and free. For the first time in her life, she felt like she truly belonged somewhere. She had found her home, and more importantly, she had found someone who would fight for her no matter what. Spring turned into summer, and the adoption process was moving forward smoothly. But Tom soon learned that making something legal on paper was different from healing the wounds in a child's heart. Lily had good days and bad days. On the good days, she was the confident, happy girl who loved working with the horses and had made friends at school. But on the bad days, The trauma of her past would surface in ways that broke Tom's heart. Sometimes she would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming from nightmares about being taken away again. Other times, she would flinch when someone moved too quickly near her, or she would start hoarding food in her room as if she expected to go hungry again. The hardest moments were when Lily would test Tom's commitment to her. She would act out, break rules deliberately, or say hurtful things, as if she was trying to prove that he would give up on her like everyone else had. "I hate living here," she shouted one evening after Tom had asked her to clean up her room. "I hate all these stupid rules. Maybe I should just run away again." Tom felt like she had slapped him, but he kept his voice calm. "You can run away if you want to," he said, "but I'll come looking for you, just like I did before. Because that's what fathers do for their daughters." Lily stared at him, clearly not expecting that response. Then she burst into tears and ran to her room, slamming the door. Tom gave her some time to cool down, then knocked gently on her door. "Can I come in?" "I guess," came the muffled reply. He found Lily sitting on her bed, looking miserable and ashamed. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I don't really hate living here. I love it here. Sometimes I get scared that it's too good to be true." Tom sat down beside her. "What are you scared of?" "That you'll change your mind about me. That you'll decide I'm too much trouble, like the others did." "Lily, look at me," Tom said gently. She met his eyes, and he could see all the fear and pain she was carrying. "I chose you. Not because I had to, not because someone was paying me to take care of you, but because I wanted you to be my daughter. That's not something I'm ever going to change my mind about. But what if I keep being difficult? What if I have more bad days? Then we'll work through them together," Tom said simply. "That's what families do. They don't give up on each other when things get hard." Ms. Garcia, Lily's caseworker, suggested that they start family counseling to help them both learn how to deal with the challenges they were facing. "Trauma doesn't just go away," the counselor, Dr. Roberts, explained during their first session. "It takes time and work to heal from the kinds of experiences Lily has had. And Tom, you're dealing with your own challenges as you learn to be a parent to a child who has been hurt." The counseling sessions were sometimes difficult, but they helped both Tom and Lily understand each other better. Dr. Roberts taught them techniques for managing anxiety and fear, and helped them develop better communication skills. "When Lily acts out," Dr. Roberts explained to Tom, "she's not trying to hurt you. She's testing whether you're going to stay. Her experience has taught her that adults leave when things get difficult, so she's unconsciously trying to prove that you will, too." "And when Tom sets rules or boundaries," Dr. Roberts told Lily, "he's not trying to control you or hurt you. He's trying to keep you safe and help you learn how to live in a family." Slowly, the bad days became less frequent. Lily began to trust that Tom really wasn't going anywhere, and she started to let her guard down more. She also began to excel in new areas. Her grades at school improved dramatically, and she discovered that she had a talent for writing. She started keeping a journal about her experiences with the horses, and her English teacher encouraged her to enter a writing contest. "I want to write about hope," Lily told Tom one evening. About how she was born into a safe place with people who loved her, and how that made all the difference in how she grew up. Tom smiled, understanding the deeper meaning in her words. "I think that's a beautiful idea." That summer, Lily's writing won second place in the county youth writing contest. At the awards ceremony, she read her essay aloud to a room full of people. It was about a young horse who learned to trust again after being rescued, and there wasn't a dry eye in the audience when she finished. "I'm so proud of you," Tom told her afterward, giving her a big hug. "I couldn't have written it without you," Lily said. "You taught me what it feels like to be safe." As autumn approached, the adoption proceedings were nearing completion. Frank Morrison called to tell them that the final hearing was scheduled for October 15th, almost exactly 1 year after Tom had first found Lily in the barn. "1 year ago, I was hiding in a barn, scared and alone," Lily said as they prepared for the hearing. "Now, I'm about to become your real daughter. It doesn't seem possible that so much could change." "You changed it," Tom said. You were brave enough to trust me, brave enough to let me help you. That's what made all the difference. The night before the hearing, Lily had another nightmare. But this time, instead of hiding from Tom when he came to check on her, she let him sit with her until she felt better. I dreamed that they changed their minds about the adoption, she said. That they decided I was too damaged to be anyone's real daughter. That's not going to happen, Tom said firmly. Tomorrow you're going to officially become my daughter, and no one will ever be able to change that. Promise? I promise. The next morning dawned clear and bright. As they got ready for court, Lily looked at herself in the mirror. She looked different than she had a year ago, healthier, happier, more confident. But most importantly, she looked like she belonged somewhere. Ready? Tom asked, straightening his tie. Ready, Lily said, taking his hand out as they walked into the courthouse together. Lily thought about all the people who had given up on her over the years. But she also thought about the one person who hadn't. The man walking beside her had seen past her fear and anger to the girl underneath who just needed someone to believe in her. Today they were going to make it official. But in her heart, Tom had been her real father for months. Today was just the day the rest of the world would recognize what they both already knew. They were a family. The courtroom was smaller than Lily had expected, with warm wood paneling and large windows that let in the autumn sunlight. Judge Wilson was a kind-looking woman in her 60s who smiled when she saw Lily and Tom enter together. Frank Morrison was there, of course, along with Ms. Garcia and a few other people involved in the case. But the most important guests were sitting in the back row, Mrs. Chun, Lily's English teacher who had become a mentor and friend, and Dr. Roberts, their counselor who had helped them through so many difficult moments. This is a very special day, Judge Wilson said as the proceedings began. Today, we're here to make official what I understand has already become true in your hearts. Tom Jackson, you are petitioning to adopt Lily Chun, is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, Tom said, his voice steady but emotional. And Lily, you want Mr. Jackson to become your legal father? Lily stood up straight and spoke clearly. Yes, Your Honor, more than anything, Judge Wilson smiled. I've read all the reports from Ms. Garcia and Dr. Roberts. I've reviewed the background checks and home studies. Everything indicates that this adoption is in Lily's best interest. But before I make it official, I'd like to hear from both of you about why this is important to you. Tom went first. Your Honor, a year ago I was just a man living alone on a ranch, focused on my work and not much else. When I found Lily hiding in that old barn, scared and hurt, something changed in me. She reminded me of myself at that age, needing someone to believe in me. Over these months, she's taught me what it means to be a father. She's brought joy and purpose to my life that I never knew I was missing. I want to be her father, not just because she needs a home, but because she's already my daughter in every way that matters. Judge Wilson nodded and turned to Lily. And, what would you like to say? Lily took a deep breath. She had practiced this speech, but now that the moment was here, she decided to speak from her heart instead. Your Honor, for most of my life, I thought families were just something that happened to other people. I thought I was broken somehow, that there was something wrong with me that made adults give up on me. Tom taught me that wasn't true. He showed me that love doesn't hurt, that families protect each other, and that I deserve to be safe and happy. He never gave up on me, even when I gave up on myself. I want him to be my father because he already is. I want it to be official so the whole world knows that I belong somewhere and someone belongs to me. There were tears in Judge Wilson's eyes as she spoke. Lily, I want you to know that there was never anything wrong with you. Sometimes it just takes time to find the right family. And Tom, I can see that you and Lily have found exactly what you were both looking for in each other. She picked up her gavel. Therefore, by the power vested in me by the state of Montana, I hereby grant this petition for adoption. Tom Jackson, you are now the legal father of Lily Jackson. Congratulations to you both. The gavel came down with a solid thunk, and suddenly Lily was crying and laughing at the same time. Tom swept her up in a huge hug, and they held each other tight while everyone in the courtroom applauded. We did it, Tom whispered in her ear. You're officially my daughter now. Forever? Lily asked, even though she knew the answer. Forever, Tom confirmed after the ceremony. There was a small celebration at a restaurant in town. Mrs. Chung gave Lily a journal with her new name, Lily Jackson, embossed on the cover, Dr. Roberts. Presented them with a certificate she had made, declaring them Family of the Year. Ms. Garcia, who had become much more than just a caseworker to them, gave Lily a locket with pictures of her parents inside. They would be so proud of the young woman you've become, she said as she fastened it around Lily's neck that evening. Back at the ranch, Lily and Tom walked out to the pasture where Hope was grazing with her mother, Belle. Hope was almost full-grown now, a beautiful young horse with a gentle spirit and trusting nature. She turned out pretty amazing, didn't she? Tom said, watching Hope canter across the field. She had good parents, Lily replied. Belle taught her that she was safe and loved from the very beginning. That makes all the difference. Tom smiled at the deeper meaning in her words. Yes, it does. They stood in comfortable silence for a while, watching the horses and enjoying the peaceful evening. Finally, Lily spoke up. Dad? It was the first time she had called him that officially, and the word felt perfect on her tongue. Yes, daughter? Tom replied, his heart full of joy at hearing that word. Do you think my birth parents would have liked you? Do you think they would be happy that you're my father now? Tom considered the question carefully. I think they would be grateful that someone loves you the way they did. I think they would want you to be happy and safe and surrounded by people who cherish you. And I hope they would trust me to take good care of their precious daughter. Lily leaned against his shoulder. I think they would love you. And I think they would be proud of who I'm becoming. I know they would be, Tom said, wrapping his arm around her. And I'm proud of you too, every single day. As the sun set over the ranch, painting the sky in brilliant oranges and pinks, Lily thought about the journey that had brought her here. She thought about the scared, broken girl who had hidden in a barn a year ago, convinced that no one would ever really want her. That girl couldn't have imagined this moment, standing in a place that felt like home, next to a man who loved her, unconditionally, with a future full of possibilities stretching out ahead of her. What are you thinking about? Tom asked, noticing her thoughtful expression. Double quotes, just ... Everything, Lily said. How different my life is now. How different I am. You're not different, Tom said gently. You're just finally free to be who you always were underneath all that fear and hurt. As they walked back toward the house, Lily felt a sense of completeness she had never experienced before. She had a father who loved her, a home where she belonged, and dreams for the future that felt possible now. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, she knew. There would still be difficult days as she continued to heal from her past. But she also knew that whatever came, she wouldn't face it alone. She had found her forever family, and they had found her. And that made all the difference in the world. 2 Years later, on a warm spring morning, Lily would give a speech at her high school graduation. She would talk about resilience, about the power of not giving up, and about how sometimes the people who save us are the ones we save in return. My father taught me that love is patient, she would say, looking out at Tom in the audience. He taught me that families aren't just made by blood, but by choice and commitment and showing up for each other every single day. He taught me that everyone deserves to be safe and loved and believed in. But on this October evening, as they walked toward their home together, Lily was simply a 15-year-old girl who had finally found where she belonged. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything.